silence of space was broken by urgent signals flashing across the Galactic Council's central monitoring station. Operator Yuna leaned forward, her four eyes widening as she studied the energy readings coming from a small blue planet in a previously unremarkable solar system. "High Counselor, you need to see this," she called out, her voice betraying rare excitement. High Counselor Dong He, who had served the Council for over 200 cycles, moved with deliberate calm toward the monitoring station. The Council had documented thousands of developing civilizations over millennia, but something about these readings was different. "It appears this species has achieved faster than light travel," Yuna explained, "but their method is impossible." "Nothing is impossible, merely improbable," Dong He replied, though his expression showed genuine surprise as he studied the data. "Dispatch Ambassador Taiho immediately. First contact protocols apply." Ambassador Taiho was enjoying a rare moment of relaxation when the summons came. As the Volar Empire's most experienced diplomat, he was accustomed to urgent missions, but this one felt different. The briefing was unusually short. Investigate an emerging civilization on a water-rich planet called Earth that seemed to have made a technological leap that defied conventional understanding. 3 days later, Taiho's diplomatic vessel, the TE, Starlight Envoy, approached the outer edge of Earth's solar system. His crew consisted of 12 specialists from various council races, each chosen for their expertise in first contact scenarios. "Ambassador," his navigation officer called, "we're detecting an approaching vessel. It's moving at speeds our systems can barely track." Taiho moved to the viewing portal just as the human ship became visible. The HSS Prometheus appeared as a sleek silver craft with unusual geometric patterns along its hull that seemed to shimmer and shift as if they weren't entirely present in normal space. "Open communications," Taiho ordered, straightening his ceremonial robes. This was the moment every ambassador trained for, first words with a new civilization. Instead of the expected static or primitive audio signal, a perfect three-dimensional hologram appeared on the command deck. A human woman in a blue uniform stood before them, her posture confident but non-threatening. "Greetings from Earth, I am Captain Jiwoo of the HSS Prometheus. We've been expecting you." Taiho couldn't hide his surprise. "You've been, expecting us?" Captain Jiwoo smiled. "Your ship's quantum signature has been visible to our deep space monitoring network for the past week. We thought it polite to wait until you approached before making formal contact." The ambassador exchanged glances with his science officer. The Council's cloaking technology was considered perfect. No developing civilization should have been able to detect them, let alone track them with such precision. "May we approach for proper introductions?" Taiho asked, following protocol despite his growing unease. "Of course. We've prepared docking accommodations compatible with your vessel's specifications." Again, Taiho was startled. How could they possibly know the specifications of a Council diplomatic vessel? As the Starlight Envoy moved alongside the Prometheus, Taiho ordered detailed scans of the human ship. His technical officer, Jinky, worked the scanning equipment with growing frustration. "Ambassador, something's wrong with our scanners," Jinky reported. "They can't penetrate the hull material. It's like the signals are being absorbed and redirected somehow." "Try alternate frequencies," Taiho suggested. "I've tried all standard protocols. This material simply doesn't react the way any known substance should." When the ships docked, Taiho led a small delegation through the connection tunnel. The human ship's interior was surprisingly simple. Clean lines, soft lighting, and an atmosphere that felt remarkably comfortable for so many different species. Captain Jiwoo greeted them personally, along with her chief engineer Hyunwoo and science officer Minji. The humans appeared relaxed, as if meeting alien species was an everyday occurrence. "How is your ship powered?" Jinky asked without preamble, his scientific curiosity overriding diplomatic protocol. "Our readings detect no conventional energy source," Hyunwoo smiled. "We use dimensional folding to extract energy directly from the quantum foam between realities. It's much cleaner than antimatter reactions or fusion." The delegation fell silent. Such technology was theoretical at best among the Council's most advanced races. That's not possible, Jinky finally responded. Perhaps not with linear quantum mechanics, Minji offered kindly. But once you approach space-time as a malleable construct rather than a fixed framework, many things become possible. Taiho tried to regain control of the conversation. We represent the Galactic Council, a federation of 27 spacefaring civilizations dedicated to peaceful cooperation and advancement. Yes, we gathered as much from your communication patterns. Captain Jiwoo nodded. We've been passively monitoring various signals for decades. Your encryption is quite elegant, though somewhat predictable once the base algorithms are understood. The ambassador felt a chill. The Council's communication systems were supposed to be impenetrable. We would like to invite representatives from your Council to Earth, Jiwoo continued. We're hosting our annual technology summit next month. It would be an honor to have galactic guests attend. Taiho knew then that his report back to the Council would change everything. These humans hadn't just achieved space travel. They had leapfrogged centuries of technological development through some alternate path of scientific evolution. As he prepared to accept the invitation, Taiho couldn't help but wonder if the Council was about to meet its match in this young species, from a previously overlooked blue planet. The return journey to Centralia, Prime felt longer than usual to Ambassador Taiho. His report about Earth had sparked an emergency council session, the first in over 50 years. As his ship docked at the massive space station that served as the Council's headquarters, he could see unusual activity. Representatives from all 27 member species were arriving, some traveling from the farthest reaches of controlled space. They're taking this seriously, remarked his aide Minseo. As they should, Taiho replied, gathering his presentation materials. What these humans have accomplished changes everything. The council chamber was an impressive sight, a vast circular room with rising tiers of seating arranged by species, age within the galactic community. At the center stood the speaker's platform, currently occupied by High Elder Jinsu of the Atari, one of the founding races of the council. Ambassador Taiho, we have reviewed your preliminary report, Jinsu's voice echoed through the chamber. Many find your claims difficult to accept. Taiho bowed respectfully. I understand, High Elder. I would have thought the same before witnessing human technology firsthand. He activated the holographic display, showing recordings from the Prometheus. Their energy production methods alone represent a significant leap beyond our current capabilities. They appear to have discovered principles of physics that our scientists have yet to formulate. Counselor Hyejin, of the Teller Collective, known for their scientific achievements, leaned forward. Are we certain this isn't merely a misunderstanding? Perhaps they're using conventional technology disguised with unfamiliar terminology. I considered that possibility, Taiho responded, which is why I'm recommending we accept their invitation to Earth's Technology Summit. Seeing is believing. Counselors? Murmurs filled the chamber as representatives consulted with their advisors. The idea of an emerging species possessing superior technology violated the natural order the council had observed across thousands of worlds. Eventually, High Elder Jinsu called for a vote. Those in favor of sending a diplomatic and scientific delegation to Earth, indicate now. To the chamber illuminated with more affirmative signals than Taiho had expected. Curiosity had won out over skepticism. Very well, Jinsu announced. A delegation will depart in 5 days. Ambassador Taiho will lead, accompanied by our finest scientific minds. The diplomatic vessel Celestial Harmony was the Council's flagship, designed to showcase the pinnacle of galactic civilization to newcomer species. As it approached Earth's solar system, the delegation gathered in the observation lounge. Expect primitive shuttles and perhaps a small orbital station, remarked Counselor Kyungho, a renowned physicist. Most young spacefaring races manage little else in their first century of space travel. What they saw instead left them speechless. Earth was surrounded by an intricate network of satellites, space stations, and shipyards. Ships of various designs moved with precision through carefully managed traffic patterns. Most striking was the massive structure positioned at Earth's L1 Lagrange point, a ring-shaped station that appeared to be generating its own gravitational field. "That's impossible," whispered Kyung-ho. "The energy requirements alone would be—" "Welcome. Celestial Harmony," came a transmission from Earth Traffic Control. "Please proceed to docking coordinates. Captain Jiwoo will escort you to the summit." True to her word, the HSS Prometheus appeared alongside them, guiding the Council vessel toward Earth. As they descended through the atmosphere, the delegation crowded around viewports to see the human world firsthand. The summit was being held in a city called New Seoul, a sprawling metropolis of sweeping architecture that seamlessly integrated with the natural landscape. Buildings seemed to flow like water, with gardens spiraling up their sides and transparent walkways connecting them high above the ground. Their aesthetic sensibility is unexpected, noted cultural attaché Yoonji. There's harmony here between technology and nature. The welcoming ceremony was modest by council standards, no grand parades or elaborate protocols. Captain Jiwoo greeted them personally, along with a small group of human officials. "Welcome to Earth. We're honored by your presence." "The honor is ours," Taiho replied automatically, though he couldn't help but notice the subtle confidence in the humans' demeanor. They weren't awed by their galactic visitors. They were simply curious. The summit itself was eye-opening from the first presentation. Dr. Minho, Earth's leading physicist, demonstrated principles of quantum manipulation that left council scientists frantically taking notes and whispering among themselves. "As you can see," Minho explained, activating a small device that created a perfect miniature star in mid-air. "By folding dimensional barriers at the quantum level, we can access energy states previously considered theoretical." Counselor Kyung-ho raised a hand. "This contradicts established laws of conservation. Where's the energy coming from?" "Not coming from anywhere," Minho smiled. "It was always here. We're simply accessing parallel probability states where the energy is more accessible." During a brief recess, Taiho overheard heated discussions among the scientific contingent. "They've taken a completely different evolutionary path in their scientific development," Kyung-ho was saying. "While we refined existing principles, they questioned the foundations themselves." The demonstrations continued for 3 days. The humans showed remarkable restraint, presenting their technologies without boasting or suggesting superiority. Yet the implications were clear to every council member present. This young species had, in certain fields, surpassed civilizations thousands of years their senior. On the final evening, a reception was held in the summit's botanical gardens. Under a canopy of stars, human and alien representatives mingled more casually. Taiho found himself speaking with Earth's science director, Ji Yeon. "Your people don't seem surprised to discover you're not alone in the universe," he observed. "We've suspected intelligent life existed elsewhere for centuries," she replied. "Finding you now is simply confirmation of probability." "And you're not concerned about joining a galactic community where you're the newcomers?" Jiyeon smiled, looking up at the stars. "New perspectives are always valuable, Ambassador. We have much to learn from the Council's experience, just as perhaps you might find value in our different approach to the universe." As Taiho watched the human and alien scientists' deep and animated conversation, he realized the summit had achieved something profound. The invitation hadn't been about humans showing off their achievements. It had been about beginning a genuine exchange of ideas. The council had arrived expecting to guide a young species into the galactic fold. Instead, they were returning home with questions about their own understanding of the universe, and with the humbling awareness that the teachers might become students. The magnificent council chambers on Centralia Prime had witnessed countless historic moments across millennia, but none had created such tension as today's session. The vast dome ceiling, mapped with constellations from all 27 member worlds, seemed to press down upon the assembly as delegates settled into their positions along the tiered seating. Ambassador Taiho stood calmly beside the human delegation, though inwardly he felt the weight of the moment. Dr. Minho, Earth's leading physicist, appeared remarkably at ease despite being the first human to address the full Galactic Council. Beside him stood Technical Director Sung Ho and Chief Diplomat Jin Young, both watching the chamber with attentive eyes. High Elder Jin Su struck the ceremonial chime, bringing the murmuring assembly to silence. This extraordinary session will now commence. His voice carried effortlessly through the chamber. We gather to evaluate humanity's petition for council membership and to receive their technological presentation. The eldest council members sat stone-faced. These ancient species had seen civilizations rise and fall, and had developed a certain skepticism toward promising newcomers. Yet even they couldn't disguise their curiosity about these humans who had apparently rewritten fundamental physical laws. Councillor Daesung of the Lith Confederacy spoke first. Let us acknowledge what many are thinking. The standard membership process requires centuries of evaluation. Humanity has been spacefaring for less than 100 years. Their petition is unprecedented. As is their technological development, countered Ambassador Taiho. I have witnessed it firsthand. Traditional timelines may not apply here. High Elder Jinsu nodded thoughtfully. We have agreed to this presentation precisely because of such reports. Dr. Minho, you may proceed. Dr. Minho stepped forward to the central platform. He was not a tall man, but he moved with quiet confidence. Rather than using the council's holographic system, he removed a small silver cube from his pocket. Honorable councilors, thank you for this opportunity, he began. Rather than detailed explanations, I believe a demonstration will be most efficient. He placed the cube on the platform and pressed a small indentation. The air shimmered as the cube projected not simply a hologram, but what appeared to be actual matter, a perfect miniature solar system hovering above the platform. The planets moved in their orbits. Clouds swirled on the water worlds and tiny moons circled larger bodies. This is not a projection, Minho explained. These are actual matter constructs, maintained through what we call dimensional phase locking. Councillor Kyung-ho couldn't contain himself. That's simply not possible. You cannot create matter from nothing. We aren't creating it, Minho replied calmly. We're borrowing it from probability fields adjacent to our reality. The energy cost is minimal because we're utilizing natural quantum entanglement. To demonstrate, he reached into the miniature system and adjusted the orbit of one planet. The entire system recalculated instantly, showing new orbital patterns. This same principle allows our gravity manipulation technology, he continued. By selectively phase-shifting mass, we can generate or nullify gravitational fields at will. The chamber erupted with questions. Representatives of the Kier, long considered the Council's most brilliant engineers, were particularly vocal. Their chief scientist, Young Ho, approached the platform with obvious skepticism. Such manipulation would require computing power beyond anything currently possible, he challenged. Minho nodded respectfully. Traditional computing, yes, but we developed quantum neural matrices that operate across multiple probability states simultaneously. Technical Director Sung Ho added, Our computers don't calculate possibilities sequentially. They experience all potential outcomes at once. The demonstration continued with Minho showing how Earth vessels achieved faster-than-light travel without the massive energy expenditure required by the Council's methods. Instead of forcing their way through space-time, human ships gently folded it, stepping through the resulting dimensional gap. The mathematics behind this is actually quite elegant, Minho explained, displaying equations that caused several Council scientists to gasp or frantically take notes. We discovered that space-time isn't a rigid framework, but a malleable medium that responds to certain quantum frequency patterns. As the presentation concluded, the chamber fell into a stunned silence that lasted nearly a full minute, an eternity in Council proceedings. Finally, Councillor Minji of the Arkovi Collective spoke. In my 300 years on this Council, I have never witnessed technology that so fundamentally challenges our understanding of physics. If what we've seen is genuine, it is, interrupted Ambassador Teho. I've personally traveled on their vessels. Their technology functions precisely as described. High Elder Jinsu raised a hand for silence. The implications extend beyond technology. If humans possess such advanced understanding, The traditional power structure of the council could be dramatically altered. The chamber tensed at this frank assessment. For thousands of years, technological superiority had aligned with seniority in the galactic community. The most ancient races possessed the most advanced technology, until now. Counselor Daisung voiced what many were thinking. A species this advanced could pose a security concern. What assurances do we have regarding humanity's intentions, Chief? Diplomat Jin Young stepped forward, her expression serene. We understand your concerns. Earth has no imperial ambitions. Our history taught us bitter lessons about the dangers of unrestrained expansion. We seek collaboration, not dominance. Fine. Words, said a representative from the militant Sauri Empire. But actions prove intentions. How do we know humans won't use their technology to overwhelm less advanced worlds? Because we've had the capability for decades and haven't done so, Jin Young replied simply. We've observed the council for years without interfering. If conquest were our goal, would we openly reveal our capabilities? The logic was difficult to refute, yet the tension remained. Several elder races huddled in consultation, their discomfort obvious. High Elder Jinsu finally addressed the human delegation directly. Your technology is impressive, perhaps revolutionary. But council membership is about more than capability. It requires demonstrated wisdom in applying such power. The council must deliberate on whether humanity has truly achieved both. As the session adjourned, Dr. Minho packed away his demonstration device, while council representatives clustered in animated discussion. Ambassador Taiho approached the human delegation. You've certainly made an impression, he said quietly, but be prepared. Many powerful members will resist altering the established order. Jin Young nodded. We expected resistance. Change is always difficult, especially for those who've benefited from stability. And yet, Minho added, looking around, at the ancient chamber with its weight of tradition, the universe itself is built on constant change. Perhaps that's something we can help the council remember. The emergency alert echoed through the council chambers with a sound few living beings had ever heard. The ancient warning tone reserved for catastrophic events. Conversations stopped mid-sentence as the massive central display activated, showing a star system 30 light-years from Centralia Prime. Zeta Reticuli is destabilizing, announced Chief Astronomer Jihoon, his typically calm voice strained. Core collapse has begun. The chamber erupted in panicked voices. Zeta Reticuli wasn't just any star. It supported 3 heavily populated worlds with a combined population of nearly 14 billion sentient beings. High Elder Jinsu raised his hands for silence. Chief Astronomer, explain what we're seeing. Jihoon's fingers danced across his console, enlarging the image of the yellow star. Strange, dark patterns swirled across its surface. Unlike anything in council records, the star has begun an accelerated fusion process in its core, he explained. Normally, such a star would have billions of years of stable life remaining. This is unprecedented. Council Science Director Yunha stepped forward. How long until critical failure? At current rates of deterioration, Jihoon replied grimly. Complete nova in approximately 7 days. The silence that followed was deafening. Everyone understood the implications. Even with the entire council fleet, evacuating 3 planets in 7 days was impossible. Billions would die. There must be something we can do, said Counselor Minji, her voice barely audible. Science Director Yunha shook her head. Once stellar core collapse begins, it cannot be reversed. This is fundamental astrophysics. Perhaps not. All eyes turned toward the human delegation, still present as observers while their membership petition was being evaluated. Ambassador? Subin had spoken, her expression thoughtful rather than alarmed. Human. Elder Jinsu addressed her directly. This is not a time for diplomatic posturing. We face an unprecedented crisis. I'm not posturing, Subin replied calmly. I believe we may be able to help. Dr. Minho stepped forward, already working calculations on his portable device. The pattern of collapse is unusual. It appears to be a quantum cascade failure rather than natural stellar evolution. Science Director Yuna scoffed. That's theoretically impossible. Stars don't experience quantum effects at the macro level. They typically don't, Minho agreed. But this isn't typical. May I access your sensor array for a more detailed analysis? After a moment's hesitation, Elder Jinsu nodded permission. The council members watched as Minho connected his small device to their massive scientific network. The display changed, showing new layers of data that most council scientists had never seen represented. As I suspected, Minho muttered. The star's quantum field matrix has been destabilized. The question is why? Ambassador Subin turned to the council leadership. We need to dispatch ships immediately, both yours and ours. If we're right, we may be able to implement dimensional stabilization. Dimensional what? Demanded Counselor Daesung. In simple terms, Minho explained without looking up from his calculations, we can create a quantum field overlay that will reinforce the star's natural fusion boundaries. It would prevent complete collapse while allowing the star to return to its normal fusion rate. The council's leading scientists gathered around Minho's display, their expressions shifting from skepticism to cautious interest as they reviewed his calculations. Even if this theory is sound, said Chief Engineer Young Ho, the energy requirements would be astronomical. We would need thousands of ships generating a perfectly synchronized field, or 7 specially equipped platforms, said Subin. We can modify some of our vessels within 48 hours. The council chamber grew tense. The humans were offering to save billions of lives with technology that most council scientists still considered impossible. Yet the alternative was unthinkable. Elder Jinsu called for an immediate vote. Those in favor of accepting Earth's assistance? Lights flashed across the chamber as members signaled their approval. Only a few remained dark, primarily from the eldest races who viewed human technology with deep suspicion. Motion carried, Jinsu announced. Ambassador Subin, your people have the Council's full cooperation and resources. The next 5 days passed in a blur of activity. Human engineers worked alongside Council technicians, modifying 7 large vessels with technology that many still didn't understand. Dr. Minho personally supervised the installation of what the humans called quantum field generators, devices that seemed impossibly small for their intended purpose. Council scientist Hana watched with fascination as Minho tested one of the completed units. How can something so compact generate enough energy to affect a star? It doesn't generate energy, Minho explained patiently. It creates a resonance pattern that amplifies the star's own natural quantum state. Think of it as reminding the star how it's supposed to behave, rather than forcing it to change. As the modified vessels prepared to depart, tension mounted. The observation screens showed the deterioration accelerating. Dark spots now covered nearly 30% of the star's surface. We're cutting it close, muttered Technical Director Sungho as their ship accelerated toward the Zeta Reticuli system. The cascade is spreading faster than predicted. The journey that would normally take Council ships several days was completed in hours using human propulsion technology. When they arrived, the sight was terrifying. The star pulsed erratically, its surface churning with massive flares and dark patches. Deploy the platforms in equidistant orbital positions, Minho directed. Precision is essential. Council ships provided protection as the platforms moved into position around the dying star. On the 3 inhabited planets, billions watched their sun's erratic behavior, unaware that their fate hung in the balance. Platforms in position, reported Sungho. Field generators powering up. Minho took a deep breath. Initiate dimensional stabilization on my mark. Now. 7 beams of blue-white energy connected the platforms, forming a perfect geometric pattern around the star. For several tense moments, nothing seemed to happen. Then, gradually, the dark patches on the star's surface began to recede. It's working, whispered Hana, watching the readings on her console. The quantum cascade is reversing. Over the next 12 hours, the star's erratic pulses steadied. The surface flares diminished. Readings from the core showed fusion rates returning to normal parameters. When final stabilization was confirmed, the relief in the command center was palpable. Council scientists embraced their human counterparts, overcome with emotion. "You've now saved billions of lives," Elder Jinsu told Ambassador Subin in a private communication. "The Council is in humanity's debt." Subin smiled tiredly. "We simply did what anyone would do when facing such a crisis." But as the ships prepared to return to Centralia Prime, everyone understood that the galaxy had changed irrevocably. Humanity had not only proven their technology's validity, but demonstrated a willingness to use that technology to preserve life, even before being accepted as full Council members. The power balance of the Galactic Council would never be the same. The great Hall of Centralia Prime shimmered with light reflected from 1,000 worlds. Delegates from all 27 member species had gathered for what many were calling the most significant council session in millennia. The curved walls, normally displaying the serene constellations of council space, today showed continuous footage of the stabilized Zeta Reticuli star, a constant reminder of what had been at stake. Ambassador Subin stood calmly at the center of the chamber, flanked by Dr. Minho and Engineer Doyen. The human delegation wore simple blue uniforms rather than elaborate ceremonial attire, a choice that hadn't gone unnoticed by the council observers. "Simplicity in the face of grandeur," murmured Cultural Analyst Jiwan to her colleague. "A deliberate statement." High Elder Jinsu struck the ancient ceremonial gong, a sound that had opened council proceedings for over 10,000 years. The vibration rippled through the chamber, bringing immediate silence. "We gather today," Jinsu began, his voice carrying the weight of his 900 years, "to formally recognize the actions of humanity in the Zeta Reticuli crisis. Through their intervention, 14 billion lives were saved from certain destruction." The chamber filled with the soft chiming sound that served as the council equivalent of applause. Even species that had been most skeptical of human technology joined in the acknowledgement. "Beyond this recognition," Jinsu continued, "we are here to reconsider Earth's petition for full council membership, a petition that typically requires centuries of evaluation." A murmur ran through the assembly. Accelerated membership was almost unheard of. The last species to receive such consideration had been the Exari, nearly 4,000 years ago. Councillor Daisung of the Lith Confederacy rose from his seat. As I Dao, one of the most conservative voices in the council, his support or opposition would sway many undecided members. "The traditional process exists for good reason," he began, and many delegates nodded in agreement. "It ensures that new members understand our customs, our laws, and our history." Ambassador Subin watched him without reaction, her posture relaxed but attentive. "However," Daesung continued, "traditions must sometimes bend in the face of extraordinary circumstances. Humanity has demonstrated not only remarkable technological achievement, but also the wisdom to use that technology for preservation rather than dominance." He turned to address the human delegation directly. "In my 400 years on this council, I have never witnessed a non-member species risk its own resources for the benefit of worlds they had never even visited. This speaks to a core value that aligns with the highest ideals of our council." The chamber erupted in supportive chimes. Daesung's endorsement carried significant weight. Science Director Yunha approached the central platform next. "I wish to speak to the technological implications," she said. "Many of us initially doubted the validity of human scientific claims. Those doubts have been decisively answered." She gestured to the screens showing the stabilized star. "What we witnessed was not merely an advanced application of known principles. It was a fundamentally different approach to physics itself." "Doctor," Minho stepped forward at Elder Jinsu's acknowledging nod. "If I may explain briefly," he began, his voice steady despite the historic moment. "Traditional stellar science treats stars as primarily gravitational and nuclear systems. Our approach recognizes them as quantum entities that exist simultaneously across multiple dimensional states." He activated a small device that projected a complex model of intersecting fields. "The quantum field generators we deployed didn't force the star to change. They simply reinforced the star's natural tendency toward stability across all its quantum states." Several council scientists leaned forward, captivated by the elegant simplicity of the concept. It was revolutionary, yet somehow obvious once demonstrated. The implications extend far beyond stellar mechanics, Minho continued. This same principle can revolutionize energy production, space travel, medicine, virtually every technological field. For the first time, a note of concern rippled through the chamber. Science Director Yunha voiced what many were thinking. Such technology represents a significant shift in the balance of knowledge within the Council. Traditionally, the eldest races have possessed the most advanced understanding. Engineer Doyen spoke for the first time, his deep voice carrying an unexpected gentleness. Knowledge need not be a zero-sum equation, he said. Humanity's different evolutionary path led us to different discoveries, but we recognize how much we can learn from the Council's vast experience. He gestured respectfully toward the Elder Races section. Your civilizations have maintained peace and stability across thousands of worlds for millennia. That wisdom is as valuable as any technology. The tension in the room eased slightly. Ambassador Subin stepped forward again. We come not as conquerors or disruptors, she said, but as partners. Earth wishes to share our knowledge openly, while learning from the collective wisdom gathered here over thousands of years. Elder Jinsu nodded thoughtfully before addressing the assembly. The question before us is clear. Does humanity's demonstrated technological achievement and ethical application thereof warrant extraordinary consideration for council membership? The voting period opened. On the massive central display, lights began to appear, blue for approval, red for denial, white for abstention. The chamber watched in hushed anticipation as more and more blue lights filled the screen. When the final tally appeared, there was a moment of stunned silence. 25 species had voted for approval, 2 had abstained, and none had voted against. It is decided, Elder Jinsu announced. Earth is formally welcomed as the 28th member world of the Galactic Council, with all rights and responsibilities thereof. The ceremonial chiming was deafening. Representatives from dozens of worlds approached the human delegation, with congratulations and requests for technological cooperation. Later, as the formal reception began in the Grand Gallery, Ambassador Subin found herself speaking with Elder Jinsu in a quiet corner. This is an unprecedented moment in Council history, the Elder observed. Many are wondering what comes next. Subin smiled. Cooperation, exchange of ideas, a new perspective on what's possible. And yet, Jinsu said carefully, I suspect we've seen only a fraction of humanity's technological capabilities. Rather than denying it, Subin looked out across the gallery where Dr. Minho was deep in animated conversation with scientists from a dozen worlds. The quantum field technology we demonstrated is just one branch of our research, she acknowledged. We have developments in artificial intelligence, bioengineering, dimensional exploration, fields that could benefit all Council worlds. Such rapid advancement in so many areas, Jinsu mused. It makes one wonder how we achieved it so quickly, Subin finished. Perhaps it's simply that we questioned different assumptions. Where Council races built upon established principles, humanity often started fresh, asking why something couldn't be done rather than accepting that it couldn't. Across the room, Engineer Doyen was showing a group of fascinated Kier representatives, a handheld device that seemed to defy gravity. A new era begins today, Elder Jinsu said, raising his ceremonial cup. May it be one of harmony and shared discovery. Ambassador Subin touched her cup to his. To new possibilities, she agreed, and the wisdom to explore them together. As the celebration continued late into the night, representatives from the oldest Council races to the newest found themselves imagining a future very different from the past, a future where humanity's unique approach to the universe would reshape galactic civilization for millennia to come.